Starting now. All right, guys. We're at the AYT top four. This is the other side of the bracket. We have Daniel Peck, playing Eldlich Synchro. I believe you have access to the deck list, Yaoi Zhang, a fellow admin
Uh,
of the group.
yep, that's true. And then we've got Jon Lowbridge playing Magical Musketeers, a very under the radar deck that no one was expecting to get this far.
Oh, definitely. Deck the just packs the punch. It can OTK. It can control the board. Has a lot of good one for one traits and very powerful cards. And the cool part is that a lot of it does play from your hand as well, so you're less susceptible to like certain forms of removal. Obviously, this is less of the case now because of Lightning Storm, but I do think it does have a place in the metagame.
I think it's
So we,
also really good against a lot of the cards that Daniel Peck's playing, like Nibiru. Daniel Peck's playing Nibiru in the main,
mm-hmm,
which does absolutely nothing to Magical Musketeers a lot of the time.
mm-hmm. You can see Caspar coming down and just attacking. So I think a lot of Jonathan Lowbridge's game plan is actually just playing cards into zones against the Eldritch matchup because they have to be flipped. And as you can see, like Scarlet Sanguine is being flipped now, which is going to be able to net him additional cards as well, which is really, really good. So he's
Yeah,
just going to keep snowballing. And he also gets to, I believe, negate the Sanguine with this last stand as well. So negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Um, yeah, I mean, this is pretty strong. I assume he's going to resolve Caspar. Okay, so Peck is imperming the Caspar. This might be pretty good for him. The downside is that the baseline attack values in the Eldritch Synchro deck pretty low. Unless you're playing Despot 003, there's very little, there's very little cards in the deck that can, generate monsters that attack over 1200 or even 1000 in the case of Herald of the Arclight. So it can be really awkward dealing with these small guys on board, unless you're seeing Lord and then Lord interacts as a. I think Magical Musketeers has a DD Crow as well that they can play from hand, as if I'm
yeah.
not
I was talking to
mistaken.
Jon Lowbridge about that before. The Needles card, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a traditional list played actually a lot of those, but then he's opted to play none of those, I think.
It's quite weird. And maybe he expected more rock, like Emancipator, and maybe some more rogue decks. Which like it isn't bad. It seems
Jokes,
like he's probably
my
versed
bad.
like the other half of the format. Sorry, like the
My
other half
mistake.
of the
He
field.
plays two.
Oh, he does play too. Okay, good.
Yep, yep.
That does sound like a reasonable mistake. It does seem like a card that does swing this matchup into his favor, and as well against the Emancipator deck, just banishes cards like Block Dragon's really powerful. All right, so we have Kid Brave here. Okay.
So I think one cool thing we have to note is that Daniel Peck won our first ever $500 tournament, and
Yep.
he also won the subsequent one a year later. So he's actually got quite a bit of reputation to hold in these big tournaments in our group.
Oh, definitely. He's one of the online grinders. He also topped the LCS. So we see Magician Souls off the top. Another card that can be very swingy. When you see Curse Eldlands and other cards that are replacing themselves, Souls is just trading those cards for additional value. And it also synergizes well with the synchro aspect of the deck because having additional extenders allows you to play through more hand traps, which is a big thing. And I know Peck and I have been discussing this over the last couple weeks.
Oh, lost domination.
So
Crazy.
this one is change its attack and defense to 0. I don't even know if that works that way, but I'm not going to critique it. I'm going to assume Lowbridge knows how his cards function. But we see an Imperm procking to block the Caspar. We see O-Lion and Souls. So this is going to be the standard play where I believe he's going to make Link Karibo, and he is going to go for uh, the combo, which is just the standard O-Lion. I don't think he's able to set up formula here because he will have to burn through Jet, if I'm not mistaken. No, this is a standard play. Okay, cool. No, this actually is fair enough.
So
So
the
he's
cool thing is with most decks, when they have excess cards in their hand, you can just assume that they're bricks or don't do anything. But with Magical Musketeers, they can activate the traps
yeah.
from their hand. So it's very hard to see, like, gauge what kind of hand they have.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can't tell if they have a weak hand or if they're just full of, like, the counter traps.
Yeah, it could also just be other normal summons as well. You'll notice like Lowbridge did summon the 1200 attack Caspar on turn 1, followed it up with the 1600, and he has been holding a lot of cards back. So it is
Yeah.
very tough to sort of gauge, what is what.
Yeah, he also
Okay, so.
plays 3 Ash, 3 Nibiru
Hmm.
as his defensive monster lineup. But he also played. I do think he built mainly for the Admantia matchup because he has 3 Dark Ruler no more in the main deck.
It's still, I think, good enough against the Eldlich Synchro decks that aren't summoning True King of All Calamities. Some people are just summoning Savage and Herald as well. So it's not too far off. I think he was really just going for, like, if my opponent has a board, I'm going to either have a hand trap or have a Dark Ruler no more. And then if your opponent has a board, you can set up the Magical Musketeer link as well. So Dark Ruler no more pairs very well with that against established boards. So I think that's sort of like the game plan that he's trying to take. Dark
He
Ruler
also
no more.
plays
So
Exciton Knight.
Exoton Knight comes up. This deck does
Yeah,
generate rank 4s quite easily. Is he playing double or nothing in Utopia
yeah.
double? Okay,
I,
yeah.
I I think those are like the key cards in the Magical Musketeer deck. That's the only way
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
really
exactly,
punish and
exactly.
push.
Yeah, so this deck can just do a lot against some of the more fair decks in the format, because it can just continue generating advantage through its monsters, and then it has a finish in the form of Utopia Double against decks like Salamangreat. So we see Peck is playing Herald of the Arclight over one of the choices. I think he was playing Appaloosa in that spot, from what I noticed from the LCS. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be doing too much, because Lowbridge already has the board set up. Opting to not enter the battle phase, I think he probably thinks he can end the game this turn,
Mm.
ignoring Herald entirely, which is pretty neat the more you think about it. So I think, yeah, so Peck did set a Scarlet Sanguine in the end phase
Yeah.
of his other Golden Land. So we have Crooked Crown. So special summon one Magical Musketeer monster from your hand, and if you do, your opponent's main monster zone in that column is unused. That zone cannot be used until the end of this turn. Okay. And we have a Call by the
Oh,
Grave hitting the
Call the
Herald.
Grave.
Oof. So we do know the set card is Sanguine. So if Lowbridge does have access to an Ash Blossom, then Ash Blossom's hitting the Sanguine and the game is done. He does have to be careful about Peck Sand Traps, which can be Nibiru, Effect Veiler, I assume. There's a big combination, but this is, yeah. So this is game on board, but if he does have the Ash, it is, yep. Oh, no, so he is, this is
He's a
just as
counter
good as
trap.
Ash, yep. It's just like having another copy of Ash, huh? Oh, that was
Yeah,
game
it's a
one.
very slow game where neither player really opened the greatest hand.
So I think the interesting part will be how Peck approaches game 2 and 3, because he sort of like figured out what Lowbridge's line has been, in
Yeah,
terms of like, okay, well, he's going first and he's setting, or he's like, if Peck goes first and sets cards, Lowbridge is just summoning into those things. Maybe there's a world where he preemptively starts flipping some of his traps as a means of like interaction with like the board,
yeah,
putting Golden Lord on field, as soon as possible to sort of mitigate some stuff. That might be
yeah.
an approach he has to take. But at the
The
same
Peck,
time, he also has to deal
yeah,
with the DD Crow as well, so that's going to be a big problem.
yeah. Peck's side deck has the 3 Cypher Gammas, 2 Call by the Grave, 3 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Lightning Storm, and 3 Torrential. None of which really do too much against the Magical Musketeer deck. I suppose Torrential Tribute's not the
Torrential
worst.
is probably one of the better cards against this deck. I think it is like it's going to be the inclusion that might make or break this matchup, because the deck is reasonably slow. It does really have to function off its normal summon, and I think Torrential is a good enough swing. In terms of advantage, like if Peck had Torrential at most of the points in game one, if he was playing maybe the Herman Hansen deck from the LCS, which was main decking Torrential, then I think Torrential would have been a standout, especially in this sort of game state. But I do agree it can be kind of dicey. But I think by default, Peck will probably just end up putting in Torrential going first and potentially Call by the Grave.
He chose
Otherwise,
to go first.
yeah, I think I would opt to pick first with this deck. I don't think it's too far off, and the boards that you set up are so strong. So we have Ash hitting the Eldlin, which is like, you sort of have to assume that Lowbridge does have another way to interact with the Crystron Halclefibrax as well. Just because if you're ashing Eldlins, that does mean that you don't care about fiber resolving. And
And
it's so easy to
Casper
do it off
again.
one card. So Casper, yeah, Casper's proccing. This is going to be good.
Yeah, John's side deck was a Scythe, 3 Sanctums, 3 Evenly Matched, a Reboot, 3 Lightning Storm, and 3 Cosmic Cyclones. Most of those which are really good against his deck, but without a way of knowing whether he went first or second, it was really tough for him to choose what to put in.
Well, you can only assume. So we see Ash hitting the Link. The Link resolving is a very big swing. So if it is Link Summon, you can activate one of these effects, add one Magical Musketeer spell or trap. Add add Magical Musketeer spell and traps with different names from your deck to your hand, up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, which is none. Special summon Magical Musketeer monsters with different names from your deck, up to the number of spell and trap cards your opponent controls. So this would have, if this resolved, it would have summoned 2 monsters. And that's pretty big. Especially in the Magical Musketeer deck, where having multiple monsters means you can pick and choose which effects you resolve on your opponent's turn. So we see the 800 being paid, and he's essentially just using, what can only be, outlined as Ghost Ogre. But we still have the Lord on field. Maybe there is a world. Yeah, maybe there is a world where Peck could have just entered battle phase and attacked with the Lord to save himself 800 damage. But again, like, some people are very unfamiliar with this matchup and they don't know what the cards do, so it can be very tough.
That's exactly how Magical Musketeer gets very far in most tournaments, just from people being unfamiliar with how to beat that strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Not one you actively prepare for when you go into a tournament.
Yep, it's one of those ones that we like to call, it's good for one event, and then as soon as you do well with it, you have to be very careful and try and approach it, quite differently. But Jonathan Lowbridge does have a very good string of playing decks like this to some success. His deck for the state championships itself was the, the Herald of Perfection deck, I believe. It was playing a lot of, like, tech sort of cards. He was playing single copies of Eva to search other utility fairies. He was playing Chaos Max as a card that can't really be outed. So he's very well versed in the more underrepresented decks, and I know he did top Oceanics in 2018 with Infernoid as well, which is something that most people wouldn't have expected, especially in that format. So I think he picks these decks and he plays them well enough, and he does see some success. And a lot of the time, I think he is banking on his opponents not knowing what's going on, and it's beneficial to him. And if he's playing his cards properly, then you know what, it's even better. So we see Peck resolving Savage here, and then Peck sent the Auroradon for the Eldlich the Golden Lord, so he's getting the extra damage in. Which is really, really good here. And now he has Lord on field as well, which means he can set up his Conquistador and Jaqueros, potentially Golden Land forever as well.
It looks like at this point, Jonathan's going to need a miracle to stay in the game. We'll likely see Game 3 very shortly.
Yeah, we could see Dark Ruler no more come in here. It'd be particularly good, I think, against the Savage. But he would need additional follow-ups, so...
Yeah, like Dark Ruler with the Casper into Max. But then there's
Yeah, well, he does have the Conch.
Is there a Conquistador?
I think he set Jaquero from the Sanguine, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure you can only assume the other one is also Conquistador.
Conquistador.
Okay, so yeah, it was Conch, and Conch is being gunned to pop the 13, and Lowbridge concedes. Okay.
Do you think Lowbridge will call first this game and put in the artifact engine?
Well, if it is in his side deck, I see no reason not to. For side strategies like that, I do like to find myself picking first, because you don't want to play the guessing game of whether or not your opponent lets you go first or second. Because if they're not well versed in like what your deck can potentially do, they might just by default not give you that option. They'll just pick first, and then you have some blank cards in your deck. And
then you put in the Cosmic Cyclones and likely take out some of the hand traps.
Potentially. It's kind of weird. So the Eldlich Synchro deck has evolved to the point where it's like Cosmic is okay, going second, but going first it can just be a potential neg one that doesn't interact with Jet Synchron. So it's very hard to gauge it. But I think Sanctum and Scythe might just be enough to get him there. Because Sanctum is also another card that can help activate Magical Musketeer effects on the field. Which will net him more advantage, and Scythe will basically just end Peck's turn, assuming there's no copies of Imperm or Ghost Mourner as well. So we'll see. What do we have here? We have a copy of
Starfire and Pass.
Oof. If only the card would show up on my screen.
He chose not to put the trap in his column, so he definitely has a card to play from hand to be able to trigger the Starfire.
Oh, definitely. So we have Starfire, which will special summon a level 4 or lower musket from his deck in defense position. So he's just imperming it to cut off any other potential negates from hand. Because it looks like in the other games, Lowbridge opted to not commit too many cards to the board to play around,
Whoa.
you know, removal and what have you. Yeah, hitting a golden land is really good. Hitting an Eldlich is really good. But let's see if the set card is indeed Sanctum.
Guess not. Not at this stage.
It could also be Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave could function pretty strong against Jet Synchron here. But that does seem like the only other card that he would potentially set that isn't a musket card.
Peak's opened a very powerful going second hand. Even going first, it would have been a really strong hand.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing with the Eldlich Synchro deck is that you do have so many ways to get to, like, combo. Well, this is essentially combo. So as long as you don't have your opponent interacting with you, you're doing it all off one card, and you're trading other cards for your discards that generate additional card advantage in the end phase. So we're gonna see the standard play, which is Link Cross into double token, and then he will make a Formula Synchron to draw an additional card. The Link Karibo will turn the token into Link Karibo from Grave, and then he'll make a Rorodon after making Barricade Borg Blocker. So this is like another sort of like, this is another point where your opponent sort of thinks they're gonna hand trap and it'll be successful, versus like waiting until the absolute end. Okay, so he's not summoning Formula here. He's leaving the token up. Maybe he's is his extra deck still playing all of the standard cards?
Yeah, it just doesn't have the Appaloosa, but it has Selene. I think that's Selene.
Okay. So he's gotten a beard. Maybe he was playing around. Maybe he was just playing around like a hand trap. Didn't want to commit the Formula Synchron.
Oh, there isn't a beer.
Mm-hmm.
What's the set card?
We can only assume maybe the set card is just, you know, the Call by the Grave. Could be a Cosmic Cyclone. You need to think of the cards that he would be setting in this matchup that aren't musket cards that he would rather keep in hand. Because otherwise, you know, like they would just be, you know, interacting from hand anyway. But he got impermed early on, so yeah, I think it's Cosmic. Safe
It could also still be a Sanctum that he just didn't want to use yet. Maybe he felt.
But like at that point, he probably would have put it in the Caspar column. Sorry, the Starfire column. And then he would have been able to resolve the effect as well. So I think it's reasonable to assume it is something like Cosmic. And it might just be here to snipe Conquistador on the following turn. It looks like Lowbridge is also aiming to spread out where he puts his cards as well.
Mm.
Because if he's putting it... That is a White Destiny. It's one of the ones that people are playing a singleton of. So it was a Cosmic. Okay, so Cosmic is aiming to snipe the Sanguine here, which could be pretty rough for Peck, but could also be rough for Lowbridge as well. Like, generally, you like holding cards like that here, because he could just have additional copies of Sanguine. You know, like, he's taking free cards every single time, but we'll see.
Eldlich pretty much functions the same as a Sanguine, just without a recursion.
The Eldlich, the White Destiny, is only summoning from hand or grave. Whereas Sanguine summons from deck or grave, yeah. So that's the biggest issue with White Destiny. So Lowbridge was really going off the assumption that maybe Peck didn't have a Golden Lord in hand, or he doesn't have another Scarlet Sanguine on field.
Which did pay off. Well,
okay, so he did have Ghost Mourner in his deck, going second. So I guess it's kind of reasonable. Maybe he was watching some of Lowbridge's games throughout Swiss, and did see the cards like Sanctum Scythe, which is understandable. Like, it is a strategy. But generally, Mourner is a card that you do see sided out going second, because its functionality really only shines post-side in a couple of the matchups against cards like Gizmek Uka and Token Collector, but maybe Peck also did assume that Lowbridge would have cards like Token Collector in his deck, maybe post-side, because it is a level 4 that does recur itself. So we see Savage come down. Pretty standard. So instead of opting to make Fiber and start playing normally, he just summoned the Mourner and just tuned for a level 8.
Cursed Outland, that's very good follow-up play.
Yeah. Eldland resolving here, yeah. So I think Lowbridge is waiting. He might want to respond. Okay, no, it did resolve. Okay. Yeah, Eldland here is really good. It now makes the White Destiny live, and Peck will have access to another Scarlet Sanguine here. There's big things for Lowbridge to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, a max resolving here would be insane.
Oh, of course, of course.
You have to figure a way out for that. Like, if he could, if he Dark Rule no more Casper into max, that'd be insane.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
requires a lot of things going right.
I think Peck's card closest to the extra deck, the set card, is a card we don't have any information on either. It's definitely something to consider. So it could
So you
be
can-
another Imperm or something. There's also a world where it could just potentially be Tarantula. I don't know if that
Going
really
straight for
does
he's going
anything.
straight for the max.
Okay, so he's going for max. So Peck negates, and then it gets met with a
Cross
cross
domination.
domination. Oof, crazy. Okay.
Alright, now he gets to special summon up to 5 monsters.
Yeah. This is wild. And this is where the deck shines.
Yeah, is there a way he can use Utopia Double for game?
I think at this point he probably doesn't have to Utopia double. I think he just has enough gas on field to start doing, some crazy shenanigans. So we'll
That's
see
crazy. They don't
what
even
this
have to have
does.
unique names for his special summon effect.
No, they do.
Do they?
Different names
Did
from your deck up to the number of spell trap cards.
Oh,
So
that really is 5 names. My
I
god.
do think that the Auroradon turns off, so I'm gonna have to clarify that with him.
Yeah, the Auroradon would go to the graveyard, right? There's no effect keeping it on the field.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he doesn't get the extra card at that point either, because it would check at the resolution of the effect, and Chain Link 3 was the cross domination negating Savage, which would mean the Auroradon would fall off. Unless I'm completely mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's how all of that would go.
Jonathan Lowbridge is one of our highly respected judges for premier events.
Of course, but there
Yeah.
are things people can miss, and
Yeah.
this was the Auroradon is one of them, because I think it's one of the ones that people haven't really gotten used to yet. Like Savage's effect lets you equip the guy. Like there's some weird rulings with Thousand Eyes Restrict. Or does this check spell trap cards your opponent controls? Does it check on activation? Maybe it does. I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it would, but we'll see what happens. I did message Peck, but yeah, I guess maybe they just had their own resolve to it. So we'll see what happens.
They most definitely are playing in the Discord that we've created.
Yep,
for them.
no, very very happy with the Discord.
Yeah, I
we
think
also,
it does.
We also have some other people in the chat that are respected judges. So if anything illegal did happen, I imagine that it would be brought to their attention as soon as possible. Actually, no, this is game, right? Yeah, I know it is. So it's game in the sense that if his Utopia double goes into the Savage Dragon uncontested, its attack is 0, so the Utopia will be 8,000.
Oh wow, that does so it doesn't even matter that he has the White Destiny set.
It might not, but if he has a Conquistador set as his other set card, then it's just another way for him to deal with it. We also have to remember as well, Lowbridge did opt to pick first, so maybe there's a world where he sided out Double or Nothing. Maybe Double or Nothing is the set card as well. So that's why he's sort of like in the tank. He's trying to figure it out. He might make
that might be just Borrow Sword.
Well, he could just make Nightmare Unicorn here. Oh, he's making
Ooh.
Fizbana. Okay, that's also a pretty reasonable one, I believe. This is where we might see Peck start playing some more cards. The downside about him playing more cards is that now all of the Magical Musketeers on Lowbridge's side of the field will trigger, and they will start doing things. So this can be very unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
So now so the Caspar is going to trigger. So it's going to add a Magical Musket card from his deck. And then if he does want to activate the White Destiny that he has set, he doesn't have that as an option now. I'm just trying to work out where this goes, though, because
He summons another Golden
White
Lord from his hand.
and then he's going to trigger the dock. So you can add one Magical Musket card from your graveyard to your hand, but not a card with the same name as that activated card. Okay.
Carefully not placing it in front of Trisbane as well, which is really good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so he
Let's
does
call
have Call by the Grave. Okay, and he's going to banish the dock to not allow it to trigger. I think that's sort of what I'm gonna gather.
Or he could
So it's
just
just been negated.
take.
Okay.
He could just banish what Doc is trying to add back as well. That works. But last stand negates it. He gets a cross domination. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So now he can just make another max to banish. There was no point anymore.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's on
the
zero
downside now.
attack. So Borrow Sword can clear the 2 Eldlich.
Well, now
And
he
then
has to invest more cards into Borrow Sword now. He might do something with like access code. Could be potential access code at 53 and can clear off a good chunk of the board here.
there's no access code in his extra
Oh,
deck.
there isn't? Okay, all right. That's unfortunate. Yeah, but he has to invest all 4 into Borrow Sword here, so he might not do that. Oh, he's triggering. Oh, so he's triggering Starfire now. And then he's going to banish the Eldlin. It's going to banish the Caspar, and then it's going to banish his set card. It was double or nothing. Okay, all right. That's crazy. Yeah.
That's what made things a lot harder.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. As soon as he starts thinking, I think anyone could have seen from a mile away. It's like, okay, we can just double or nothing, clear all these back, or do everything else. And now it's just like, nope, not possible.
But at this stage, Peck will start his turn with nothing but a Sanguine in the graveyard.
He has a
Oh,
White
White
Destiny
Destiny.
and a Sanguine, and he'll have access to 2 Golden Lords on field. On top of that, if he draws Jet Synchron, he is able to play his Crystron combo, assuming he plays 2 copies of Fiber and 2 copies of Auroradon.
Do you know if cross domination is once per turn?
I have no idea. I don't know what any of the cards do, but a lot of them do say you can only activate 1 per turn.
Let me take a quick cross. Yeah, you can only activate 1 cross domination per turn, but it will give him a negate on
Yeah,
Peck's turn. Oh, he's going straight for the battle phase.
that is a big
Unfortunate.
one. Okay, so we see the max damage coming in. So with the 2 Golden Lords on field, that does mean that he has the luxury of just dealing with a
Some
good
of the
chunk of the
monsters.
board efficiently. Yeah.
But
So
it's very tough
pretty
because when you
big.
attack with one, he can just flip the cross dominate. He can just activate the cross domination and
Yeah. It's a big swing in damage, don't get me wrong. And he can still proc his effects, which is really annoying. But it is less than desirable for Lowbridge because, obviously he wanted to end the game that turn. He didn't have an avenue to do so because his double or nothing was in his hand, which is kind of rough. Just trying to work out what Peck could potentially draw off the top that doesn't really hurt him. Compared to like a very passive card. If he draws Jet, I think he does have full combo, but not through a cross domination. Let's see where this lines up. It could just be Golden Lord attacking the Trisbana. That could be quite relevant here, I think.
you'd have to run both of them in, and
Yeah, well,
one would be
that's assuming that one does end up getting negated. So the problem is, in certain scenarios as well, depending on like what value you do want to get from your Musketeer cards, he can't get a free card from Starfire, otherwise Trisbana will, trigger and banish the card. Potentially Dock here to get an extra counter trap in, and that will
Yep.
negate Conquistador on the following turn.
Casper adds anything as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one too, but I think he'll probably opt
That's-
for Dock just because the restriction is, less crazy.
Oh, he's going straight for the Casper.
The Caspar. He's gonna make it 0. Okay.
I think he did that knowing that it would minimize the damage he takes. As
Yeah.
Desperado. Oh,
This is pretty crazy. Because
and then Doc gets
now
to
he
add
can
one back
pop
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is looking real bad for Peck.
Pretty strong. It's pretty solid.
He still has the White Destiny and the Sanguine.
Yeah, he could potentially have the DD Crow style Magical Musket card as well, which could be really
Needle.
big here. Yeah, because that could just banish the Golden
Free
Lord trying to
card.
summon itself back. So that would be very, very relevant in this game state.
It banishes up to 3 cards.
Yeah.
So it would just hit the Golden
And
Lord.
there it is. There's the
Dancing
DD
Needle.
Crow, and it's going to hit everything. And Peck has admitted defeat. That's crazy. Musketeers really just resolved the Link 1 and summoned a million dudes, you know. And if he didn't win that turn, he would have won with all the advantage he accumulated. So thank you guys for watching. We'll hopefully have the finals sooner rather than later. And be sure to comment and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.